Come on.
Good. You're listening to IntellectualRadio.com. I'm your host, David L. Lowry Jr. The name of the show is Let the Truth Be Told. Folks, we're going to have an all-out Saturday this morning, and we're going to be saluting to all the fathers, because fathers play an important role in our children's lives, if you want to believe it or not. But in saying that, we're going to talk about some other topics too, So call a friend and let them know you're listening to IntellectualRadio.com. I'm your host, David L. Lowry Jr., and the truth be told, let the truth be told. We try to change your mind and move your soul.
You quench my thirst when I was thirsty. I feel like Lord, Lord, peace of mercy. Man, homie, when I'm feeling lonely, cause it's the truth that shape and mold me. Truth be told, cause I'm married to it. If it ain't the truth, man, I don't wanna do it. Real love, be official. It bear forgiveness and it be.
And welcome back. You're listening to IntellectualRadio.com. I'm your host, David L. Lowry Jr., and the show is Let the Truth Be Told. Boy, Kim, you all shiny up in here on Saturday morning. First, give it unto God, because we're getting started. My Lord and Savior, Yahshua, for making it possible for me to be here. And I want to welcome all my first-time listeners and my regular listeners, and also our Facebook Live crowd. Welcome to Let the Truth Be Told. Now, we can get these formalities out of the way. Over here to my right, the hostess with the mostest. What's up, Miss Kim?
Good morning, and I am quite shiny. This is, I had to bring a little sparkle to the day.
You did.
I've been missing in action for a couple of weeks, so I didn't, I didn't want to be forgotten. So,
well, as usual, we try to bring truth to power with our shows, so people can understand the real meaning of things. I want to give Earl a shout out for having us here today and having this platform to tell the truth about the real news and situations that's going on in our community that we sometimes don't know. Now, Kim, you and I was talking about some topics. We're going to get to Father's Day in a few minutes, but I got a question to ask Black people. In this segment, wondering minds want to know.
I don't know where this is going, but let me put my good ear on.
Now listen to this. Black people, we angry as hell at Donald Trump. We actually mad. Some black people, just like if you say his name, he's so upset. You really can't say nothing, because especially black people, it's like we've taken this on our shoulders to hate this man because he beat the Democrats out of the election. And so now we picking their fight up, and behind the scenes, a lot of stuff is being done and laws are being changed that black people are not even aware of. Kim, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that one of the last things that we talked about when I was here on the show was the whole Kanye West situation, and just the idea that we can't have it both ways. We can't say that our ancestors fought and died to be movers and shakers in this political system, and then say that it's a legitimate public strategy to not talk to the president, and that if you have these conversations, your black card is immediately revoked.
Right.
You have no black credibility on Experian, Equifax, or anybody. And I think that one of the things that we talked about was that if I pay you to represent, you say, well, Kim, those people are just crazy. I don't really like where they're coming from, so I'm not going to even talk to them anymore. We're going to have a problem, because I'm paying you to go and represent my interests, and I have an expectation that you have some sort of understanding that I don't have as a layman. You have some sort of negotiation skills. You have some sort of greater understanding, So to say that you're not just going to participate, I have an issue with that.
Well, and what I have an issue with is this. First of all, when Mr. Trump was running, we all knew the type of person that he was and the characteristics that he brought to the table as a leader. Good, staunch businessman, a social person, not that inept. Like black people, you can shake your hand at it. Ask, what's the girl that name? Ramosa. I mean, when you watch the show. So he's running the country just like he ran his show. Guess what? You're fired.
Absolutely.
And so, but at the same time, we as black people see this, and then we need to rally around ourselves, and we need to do the things for our community that we need to do regarding our political leaders. We got to get them in order. We need to be focusing on us right now at this time, because this man has already made it clear where he stands in race relationships.
I think that because you just brought up that point, there was an article that was posted right around the time of the Kanye West situation, and it talked about the love affair that hip hop had with Donald Trump before he became that he was sort of symbolic and iconic in the hip hop culture as a beacon of success, as starting from the bottom and becoming successful, and sort of this glorification of living in excess. And I think that that's something that I think that we as a culture, especially when it comes to politics and who we look to as leaders, there's no substance. There's no substance. So I think that in that respect, Donald Trump is the perfect president, not just for white people, but for everybody. Because right now we're so involved in click chasing, meaning that let me post this and see, if I can get 1,000 likes, whereas the conversation that we're having will only have 4 people to look at it or 100 people to look at it, when there's actually potential. How long did people spend talking about the Kanye West situation? And it wasn't even a deeper conversation into, things that might have brought forth some sort of solution-based conversation. It was just, you don't like the man, and he's this and he's that.
Well, that's just how we leave that. I read some comments in that. We're not going to stay long on this, but a lot of it was just pure hate. The haterade was big on Kanye West, because every person has their own mind and they think differently. Right. And so those were his opinions. Now, a lot of us might not agree with his opinions, but that was his opinion. And so, but we as black people, we always pick up somebody else's fight.
What did my man say? Master, we sick?
Yeah, we sick. Master, we so sick.
Master sick, we sick. No, boo, I'm feeling pretty good. Right. I'm waiting on Master to, let me give him some of this Minnie's pie.
And so, I'm sitting here thinking, and I was up at 5 this morning, man, to get on the flight, and to get here on time. And I'm sitting here, I was sitting there thinking about, it's some seriously psychological stuff going on that the media portrays and get everybody in a tizzy. We look at the things that are very not important at all, but all the important things that we need to be trying to address, we overlook at to say, we hate Donald Trump. And just don't, now, let me say this to my people. We knew what he was when he got there, but he's doing some things that the other presidents could have did, but they failed to do. Now, I don't have a problem with this man building a border. If you're going to come to the United States, do it legally. That's all I'm saying. I don't have a problem with him looking at different ways to economically hold our American companies accountable for killing American jobs and flying overseas and busting the unions and paying sub wages to people. That all of that played a thing into destroying the economy of the United States. But it really put a super drain on the Black community because most of our parents and fathers and mothers at that time was working in these factories, and that fed us. That's what propelled our generation into what we got today. But I'm just sitting there thinking about all the most important things that we need, but we're not getting. And now, this thing with the North Korean leader. Obama had an opportunity to sit down with this young man. He didn't touch it. Obama had an opportunity to do a lot of things that he could have done that would have made a big, huge difference, not only in the Black community, but other communities that was impoverished. But he didn't. But I like what Donald Trump did when he told the companies, bring you back or you're going to suffer the tariffs. If you don't get yourself back in order over here, you're going to do this. But I like that he was open enough to go sit down, and America has not sat down with North Korea in over 50-some years. He was able to arrange that meeting, and people don't want to give the credit to where credit due, but Dennis Rodman had something to do with that meeting with the North Korean leader. What you think, Cam?
I think you hit on 3 points that I want to talk about. One point that you hit on right away was the psychological damage being done to Americans. And I always remind people that if you can go to college and you can get a degree in media and marketing, or you can get a degree in behavioral science or become a psychologist or behavioral scientist or public health or public policy, then we have to accept the fact that the media is part of a systemic tool that is designed to push thought. We like to think about things like that in terms of, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist or, oh, that's so science fiction. But that's the reality. I've spent the last 8 years working in a field where our role is to change community-wide behavior. And we're taught things such as find a credible spokesperson, that you coming from an outside of a community are not the one that community is going to listen to. So you have to go and empower a person that's a trusted member of that community, and you basically have to feed them the language and the process and the policy that you're trying to sell as for the good of that community. Now, secondly, with Donald Trump, I think that Trump is a typical guy. And you have to realize that this man is 70-something years old. And when he talks about a time when America was great, he has a very different perspective of what made America great.
Exactly.
Being a white man in his time frame, he did not have to suffer the injustices of minorities, of Black and brown people. However, I think that while it's easy for us to sort of categorically say that this sort of alliance between the Russias and the Koreas is something waiting to happen, but you have to really look at who's doing it. And I think that when you look at reality, when you just look at it and you peel away the ideal of Kim Jong-un being this guy's 35 years old.
He's a kid.
He's a kid, but this guy has been raised from birth.
Right, exactly.
To carry on the mantra of a very organized system of oppression.
Yes, it is.
And so what I look at is that because Trump does not have the political nor the historical insight to make clear judgment, he's looking at oh, well, this looks good, or he's doing it for the likes. It looks
he's doing
good.
it. Yes, he's doing it.
And I would imagine that there's something that he sees when he looks at a system, a Russian system or a Korean system that exercises so much control over the people, that exercises such measured control. And you look and you see that their gun rate violence and their incarceration rates and these things are not like America. But at the same token, my concern is that if this guy is only operating from the standpoint of, this looks good, it sounds good, it's a great idea. And I'll put it in perspective. I won't name the group, but I provided consulting services for a couple of legacy groups, and this was their challenge. You don't have a clear vision of what you want to do. So when someone comes and say, man, this is a great idea and you're going to blow up and it's going to make millions, they're like, run with that.
Right.
But it's not sustainable.
But you know, one of the things that bothers me a lot too is that we have so much and so many things that are going on right here in the United States. The things of oppression and murder and discrimination, racial profiling, and all these other bad things that's happening right here in the United States to Black and brown people. And so the problem that I have is that how does America, the biggest hypocrite in the world, go to another country and say to North Korea, you're an oppressive leader? You know, you treat your people like this, and you do this, and you dominate them, and
I agree with
you. Your economics is bad because
absolutely agree with
you because you're North Korea,
which is why having Donald Trump as the go-between is so dangerous, because in his mind, he's not seeing them as being oppressive in the same way that he doesn't see what's happening in America as being oppressive. But he sees a system that the one leader is able to exercise this measured amount of control over an entire country. And I think that, for lack of a better term, this kid's going to make a fool out of Donald.
Well, you know, my point that I'm making is this, that I don't understand how no person in power, especially Caucasian people, I don't know how you can complain about making America great again when America was never yours from the beginning. And so if you get down
to... It goes back to the psychological, right. It goes back to the psychological warfare.
But the point that I'm making is this. I don't know how you could go to some other country and say you're doing the hardship to your people, you're so wrong for doing it, and yet police are murdering Black men and women every day here in the United States.
But
and wait a minute, and it's overlooked by the international community, because every time something happens in another country, all the international countries get together and they discuss the situation, like the Syria, the Palestinian, the Jew situation. But I don't see none of those other countries coming to the UN saying, what about the situation in America where Black men and women and children and others are being brutally murdered at the hands of this government?
Well, let me break that down to you. First of all, as Black Americans or African Americans, we don't have a voice on the international stage. That died with the whole Panther movement. We don't have a voice on the international stage, so there's no one there to advocate for us. And because we're living in a system of being, there's psychological warfare. So let me tell you all this. Go to grants.gov and look at some of the grants being offered through the Department of Justice, through Homeland Security, and some of these other military forces that talk about systems to create opportunities to manage community-wide behavior, to manage systemic behavior. And psychological warfare is very real. So when we first started engaging overseas with Afghanistan and Iraq, the first thing that they did was drop propaganda.
Yeah, propaganda,
and so
exactly.
This is not a conspiracy. This is a very well-organized military approach. Yep. So when we're not represented, when our struggle, first of all, our struggle is not legitimized. So we as Black people have even begun to take on the argument that there's something wrong with us, that our children who congregate are thugs and gangsters as opposed to children who are congregating.
Media helped
when we
that.
began to come up with alternative means to make money in communities that this is all we working with, then we're criminals. But let the system go by 50 years after all the money has been made through incarceration and law enforcement. Now you start to legalize these same criminal activities and even
legalize marijuana now, boy.
Legalize marijuana. They're even trying to put a tax and make people have to go through a whole beauty school accreditation to braid hair. And as we were talking, that's just like, okay, so you have Indian people who wear the dot. So now all of a sudden you have to go to cosmetology school to paint a dot on somebody's head for a ceremony. You got to stop this. But collectively, we don't have true leadership. And I think it's our fault because we won't allow people who represent us to become leaders. We can't have a conversation about deadbeat dads. There's no deadbeat dads sitting on the platform. We can't have a conversation about ratchet mothers or whatever
if
you want to call
ratchet mothers,
if it's not any ratchet mothers. And what happens is that when people get in these positions, they're so scared to tell their truth and to represent people who have the same truth as them, that now they begin to act like, oh yeah, well, I would never be in that position. There's something wrong with that person. You a lie. It's that person is your sister. That person is your brother, your kid, your son. But so we don't have anyone to represent the atrocities that are happening in Black America on an international stage. And that's policy driven because we're not allowed to legitimize our culture and our experience.
But, at some point in time, there's a lot of things in our community that we have to address ourselves. It's just like, how can we expect for those who oppress us to free us?
That's the Jesus juice, David.
It really is, because
it's the Jesus juice. That is the biggest systemic brainwashing.
Man.
the forcing of Christianity across the globe has led to more death and destruction than anything. And I'm sorry, I know we have a lot. Okay, so Kenneth says we fail to realize that America has no conscience. Amen to that, brother.
Yes, that's true.
And to Kenneth's point, our consciousness was supplanted with this book that we lovingly call the Bible. And don't get me wrong. True. And don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that that as an American that I don't know anything else. I was born and I was raised in a Christian household. We weren't overzealous about it, but that's where we drew our morals from. So I don't want to debate the validity of the Bible.
I just want to add to what you're saying.
Okay.
What I want to add is this. There's a lot of things in the Bible that make you think other things other than what the scripture is actually saying. But and some people say that the Bible is a mythology. But there's things in the Bible that have been written a long time ago that is happening right now. There are
things in the art of war that was written a long time ago that is happening right. There are things in Greek mythology that you can take the same transformation from scripture to interpretation to today.
Well, it's been changed so many times.
But if you look at the history of all the religions, there's so many commonalities.
I don't believe in religion.
But my point is this: even when you look at the tenets of religion, when you look at so morally speaking, we can all agree, okay, yeah, it's not maybe it's not a great idea to kill somebody, but then maybe who am I to say? You know what I'm saying? Like, who am I to say?
Some people might need it.
Some people might not need to be here. But I mean, when true story. I posted a picture earlier that of my mother's garden that I planted. And so I started this garden many years ago, and we call it a friendship garden because we had gotten flowers from other people, and you have two types of flowers. You have annuals and perennials. So perennials come back every year. You don't need to replant them. You don't need to buy more no more seeds or anything. So one of the things that as a gardener I find very calming and really spiritual is that once those flowers start to emerge and everything sort of looks alike, over years of watching these flowers, you begin to notice what flower is going to be what flower from a seedling.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to have the flower, it doesn't need to have the full color, and so is life. So is life.
Yes.
So although you can't predict that every individual is going to be a certain way, you can get an understanding that, some things go this way, some things go that way. So with that being said, in nature, there's a survival of the fittest.
That's
like
where we're at.
I'll just say this. I'm not saying that we should have people on the firing squad, but as an example, I don't think we should be trying to save the whales. You know,
Exactly.
if there's an evolution going on,
Then it needs
that
to be.
means that whales need to make way for whatever, then are we, you know, and so I think that even when we talk about in context of this sort of religious moral authority, that sort of is a legitimate way to govern our moral thought, we have to also understand that it's never been used to govern morality. It's always been used as a system of control.
Exactly.
Because the people who brought it to us are the most amoral. Without
Immoral.
conscience,
Conscience,
without morals, without values,
no
integrity.
integrity.
And for anybody to interpret from the Bible that they say is God's holy word that says this is how life should be, for anyone to interpret that you can go and bring a whole race of people, rape them, kill them, maim them, belittle them, and mistreat them. Even if you take the Bible literally when it talks about slavery, it doesn't even talk about it in that instance,
believe me, I'm a Christian too, but certain things like, you know, somebody, like you said, all those horrible things, they say, turn the other cheek. Well, I can guarantee you, if somebody hit me, I ain't turning the cheeks will be turned.
You don't turn them cheeks with them knuckles.
There's gonna be some cheeks turning. They ain't gonna be mine.
But I think that in all actuality, you know, we as humans try to take religion as this sort of there's a continuum. Either you're sort of religious, and I know people have evolved from that.
But see, that's why one of the things that I say adamantly.
We were not supposed to start talking about religion.
No, we weren't. I am not a religious. But you know what? Earl and Kim, you said that. Let's take a quick break and let's come back so we can get back on track. If you want to call in and join the discussion, 708-223-8953. Come on in. The truth be told, it's moving some souls in the way you think.
Own communities.
See you in a second.
Yes.
JD on the track. It's your boy Preacher. Yeah. True. Come on. Hey, true. Hey, true. I'm married to the truth. I'm married to the truth. I'm married to the truth. Yeah. I'm married to the truth. I'm married to the truth. Come on. I'm married to the truth. You're always there for me. And I know that you care for me. You're always down for me. You always there to pick me up. You quenched my thirst when I was thirsty. I feel like Lord, Lord, please have mercy. Man, homie, when I'm feeling lonely, cause it's the truth that's shaping moment. Truth be told, cause I'm married to it. If it ain't the truth, man, I don't wanna do it. Real love, be official. It bear forgiveness and it be sacrificial. I'm married to the truth. I'm married to the truth. I'm married to the truth. Yeah, I'm married to the truth. I'm married to the truth. Come on. I'm married to the truth. You're always there for me. And I know that you care for me.
And welcome back. You're listening to IntellectualRadio.com. I'm your host. What's going on with the United States? And like I said, you can call in 708-223-8953. But getting back to the real reason why we're at this show today, I want to give a salute to all the fathers out there that's listening and watching the show. I had an opportunity to speak to some young men on Wednesday at a fatherhood program, and these were young fathers, in their 20s, 25, some 18, and they were talking about being fathers. And I had an opportunity to let them know anybody can be a daddy, but it takes a father to raise their children.
Yes.
Because the father is going to be there no matter what, whether he with the woman or not. He going to be there hook or crook. He going to do what he got to do to make sure that his children and his family is going to be safe. But I want to say this. As each generation went on, the fatherhood remained the same, but the ideology of being a father was different. And let me explain to you what I mean by that. My father just turned 84 years old last Friday. Happy birthday to you, David Lowry Sr. I love you. I watched my father as a kid grow up on a plantation. My father and my mother picked and chopped cotton. We lived in a house that didn't have electricity. We didn't have bathrooms. We didn't have running water. There was always a time in our lives, as what the white folks call black kids was pickaninnies, that we could be taken from our parents' house if there was something that was done wrong, or we said something wrong, or we looked the wrong way. I watched my father be the type of man that said, no matter what I do, I am going to survive, and I'm going to fight to take care of my family and my children. I watched that man work for $1.50 a day, driving tractors, going hunting to feed us, doing all the things that our father would do, being there to raise us and teach us the things. Only with a third grade education, he had motherwits, but to teach us the things so that we can evolve into what we are today as men and fathers. So as time has went on, I've seen the responsibilities of being a father that has diminished. You don't need to get any accolades or you don't need somebody to pat you on the back because you were like, you raised your kids and you did this and you protected your kid. There's nothing special about taking responsibility for your actions.
Oh, Dave, good Lord. I mean,
but
listen,
fathers, what I'm saying,
on my birthday,
but the point that I'm making, Kim,
and I want to feel special, even though I've done nothing but just grow and have an age.
But true. But what I'm saying is this: to my young brothers out here that are fathers, we have to get to a place of responsibility, and we have to stop thinking about ourselves. We have to quit thinking about what we supposed to be doing or what accolades we might want to get. We have to start thinking about the children that we're bringing in this world, and we have to start thinking about our mothers and sisters and brothers and be good protectors to them. And so to the fathers out there, man, step up and do the right thing. Step up and be a man no matter what. If you have to wash dishes 40 hours a day, I mean, you have kids, you have responsibility, because those little eyes and mouths that you create, they can't even grow if you're not here to help them. So fathers, quit being daddies. Step up to the plate and do your responsibility. God bless y'all, brothers.
And I think that, to sort of piggyback off of that, I think that plays into this psychological warfare. Because I actually just watched, I just read an article and I posted it on Facebook maybe a week or so ago, and it talked about the misconception that Black men sort of have this market on being deadbeat dads, when in all actuality, there are more Black men who are active in their children's lives than when you compare that to any other race. So I think that when we push out this narrative that Black men are failing us as Black women, we sort of create a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I think that I agree that we do have to, hold each other accountable. And I think that one of the things that has happened as we've become more influenced by white culture, because they call it hip hop culture, but that's not hip hop culture. That's white culture's influence on hip hop, which says, oh no, you can't have any substance. Shake your ass and throw money. And that's all we want to show people, with the understanding that you're reaching masses of people and that these images are embedded and they're going to become eventually what people want to associate with. So when you talk about Black fathers, making sure they care the basics, we also have to be very careful of this narrative that is competing with that, because you can have a brother who only has 2 nickels to rub together and he gives the kid 8 cents. Yeah. And then they'll turn around and say, oh, he's not doing anything. You need to have 7 jobs. You need to be able to do this. So for us, we've started taking on the white man's role of changing the standard so that people can't reach it. But at the end of the day, when these children become adults and they can't remember the toys, they remember the time.
Yep,
they remember the attention. They remember. They remember
that when you make these kids, you have to co-parent.
It's so important to stop making all these damn kids. If you stop running behind everybody with your insides hanging out. But that's shoot, now that's gonna be my old ladyism. You young men, take care of your bodies. Quit giving your baby juices to everybody. Let them love you for you.
But
yes, Ken.
What I'm saying before you interrupt me. What I'm saying is this. Our children don't ask to be here. And that means that you have to have some kind of relationship with the baby mama. But that's
I'm not disagreeing.
That is mandatory. And no matter what it is, some kind of relationship. And this is why I say the oppressor always look how a way to divide people. And
let me add this to you. I want you to add this into your comment.
Okay.
So I see patterns, right?
Right.
And so I see the repetition of patterns that made slave ownership so successful. So now we are still breeding for the master. Because when we talk about, there was a comment about, we were talking a minute ago about millions of dollars or money into the community. But see, what we don't understand is that money's coming into the community, but it's not coming into the community in a form that we can sort of take it and invest it and sort of become sustainable within ourselves. So what happens is that Ken says help create jobs and help promote self-worth. Well, what happens when we put that into policy is that we don't create jobs. We create jobs, and we create jobs for the oppressor. There's social service jobs.
Yes, we have everybody else is getting rich off of us.
Social worker.
Everybody's getting rich off of us.
Social service jobs. We have jobs that somehow tag us. So you're here because you got a lot of kids whose parents are incarcerated, or you got a lot of single mothers, or you got these
everybody things. Gets rich off of us.
But we're getting money off of that. That money is coming through, and then but there's nothing that we can do with it, because they're not going to program you out of your situation, right?
And so that's so true. You're saying that, and that's why I feel that this show, and when we do this show, we're trying to jog your memory. We're trying to light a fire in your brain to start asking questions. Why are we like we are today? What can we do to change the dynamics in my life and the dynamics in the community? That's why this show is so important to me, that we can come out here and we can talk about these issues and bring solutions. But there's so many things that we can do as Black people that we do not do to change the dynamics in our community, because every other community learns how to band together and deal with the issues that they're faced with. We have been taught to hate each other. We have been taught not to be able to understand the political process. We've
been taught to fear it.
And fail.
And I want to say, because I know we only got a couple of seconds, right? And I want to say this. In my work, we work around strategies, right? and the difference between focusing on strategy systems besides focusing on individuals and circumstances is that you challenge the systemic oppression. And it's just like if you have water coming off your gutter, that because you want to take that water and put it away from your house so that the foundation doesn't get raggedy. Well, we are within an organized system for society and for politics. And we spend so much time debating the consequences that we don't even address the system. And in all my years of working in communities where I'm saying, okay, look, this is the system they're using against you all. So you got to come in here and you got to fight fire with fire. People don't want to hear it.
But the thing about that too is that, and that goes all the way back down to every conversation that we have, it comes back down to leadership.
Absolutely. And who's defining leadership? As we're having a conversation, we're making the assumption that the person that has been elected by the system is the leader.
That's not going to happen.
My man that's out there giving out jobs, my man who opens up the small business and hires kids from the hood is the leader.
I'm so tired. I'm tired of y'all brothers and sisters talking about a damn job. That's just over broke. Mm-hmm. We need to learn how to be entrepreneurs and start businesses. White folks do it every day, every second of the day. A new business open up because they can get together and collaborate and open a business. We begging for jobs opposed to begging for economic development within ourselves. Then we can create our own jobs for our own people. So we got it twisted in the thought pattern because you think that, if I can just get me a job, I'll be all right. If I can just get me over broke, I'm all right.
Some people need a job.
Yeah,
but I think that
it's what you're taught.
And I'm not saying I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying that, yes, there's room for economic growth. There's need for economic growth. There's a need for entrepreneurialism. But when we start saying things like, oh, nigga, you just got a job, then you discouraging people who don't have enough sense. And I'm just saying, everybody can't be a business owner. Some people need to welcome you to Walmart. And we will say this.
That's not true. That's not true.
Please.
Everybody can be a businessman. And I'm going to tell you why.
I think that's a gross
let me tell you why. It's what you're taught. You can take a person that has never been in business before in their lives, and you take their hand and say, this is how you do this. This goes step right here. You take this step to go to this step. You take this step to go to that step. That person might not know nothing else in their head, but if you teach and show them how to do it, they can do it. It's simple.
I think that everybody, regardless of whatever capacity, I think that everybody needs that. And this is something that we talk about all the time.
The biggest myth of all time and the dumbest creation of all time was when black people were miffed to say that the only way that you could get ahead is to go to college.
Oh my God! That's
the biggest man drain, money drain. That is myth. Listen, so many of our young people, man.
College is great, and I think that being able to go to college provides you with an opportunity to learn some things.
Yeah, all you're gonna do is get drunk,
may not have.
Get drunk,
but
and learn how to be a social butterfly.
When you look at the amount of debt that people are saddled with after college, you're gonna have to work 30 years
just to pay
in order to pay off the student loan. Yep. True story. I went to Westwood College. College not even in business anymore. They had to get shut down by the government. I took out one student loan for like $17. You know, I've been paying a damn student loan since the early. Whenever I started working at Family Guys, I had to pay on the loan because they wouldn't give me a tax return. But I have been paying on that $1,700 for at least 12 years.
Let's get back to some of these issues because
let's get back to it. I'm gonna always see. I think that the reality is that we get caught up in the details. How does this affect Dave? How does this affect Kim? How does this affect Earl? But when we look at the system and we look at there's a million Daves, there's a million Kims, there's a million Earls.
It's how now, and I'm really trying to put something in our people's mind. First about us getting together, but how now that we have to understand this system. You know, just like you said, it's a system in place. We have to learn how to understand this system so we can break the bond in our chains mentally.
Yes.
That's why this war is being waged. It's not we're experiencing the physical war, but the psychological war that we're experiencing right now has us locked up in the brain.
We are Pavlov's dogs. So everybody who ever has, you know, if you've engaged in any sort of education, we learned about Pavlov's dog probably in the 4th or 5th grade, and there's a couple of them, and
Yeah.
that might be something I'll bring to the table the next time we come. There's a social experiment, an experiment with the dogs that says that you ring the bell, you feed the dog. You read the bell, you feed the dog.
Right.
To the point that you can ring the bell, there's no food, and the
dog
dog still salivates.
Yep.
He still
He's
salivates. You talk about the invisible fences. If you train an animal and you show them this is their perimeter, then you don't even have to put the chains on.
He won't even run
right.
past that.
But it goes right back to the first thing that we were talking about, which was this psychological warfare. And here's the thing. And when I say that, you know, when we present the system that people, you know, the leading propaganda is that we have to do something. So you got to figure out what's being done to you in order so that you can be able to counteract this. And so I'm going to swing one more example. Okay. So we are taught to systemically believe these things are, whether it's coming from it's hopeless or it's got to be this way or it's this way or nothing. I think that's a really big thing that we're dealing with now, is this idea that you're either here or you're nothing, And so I think that understanding those psychological entrapments, and one of the things that I looked at when they were talking about this whole Russian scandal with the internet, you know, a lot of people blew that off, but it was very interesting to me because one of the things that I found out was that they were able to promote ideas, just how we casually share these different memes, and we start doing these different things. You know, everybody's, you know, talking about LeBron now. I don't know LeBron.
But see, that's all about that mindset.
But I want to put a very tangible thing on it. It costs $1,700 to get over 1 million likes. So when we talk about systemic brainwashing and GoFundMe and what are we doing with the money, we can take $1,700 and spread a different and start planting some different seeds.
And let me say this: we really got to do better as a people, because we can sit back and we can pontificate on all these different things and situations, and yet if we don't get out, and if we don't organize ourselves really, then we need to stop being activists on social media. And it's saying that we got to wrap it on up, Kim. It's been one. You know, we will continue to have these type of conversations. I want to be able to reach out to a lot of people. So we want ideas. You know, we don't know everything.
Absolutely.
But collectively, if we start trading ideas that we can implement in our communities, and that's what we'll be able to make changes. Kim, go ahead and give me your last words.
Okay, so for my last words is that I think that if you have a voice in your platform in social media, it's okay, because this is an acceptable form of communications. We have to stop acting like it's a new thing and it's a blockbuster. You know, this is a way that you are reaching people, and everybody's not going to interact with you or give you accolades. But if you are able to make someone think and they're on social media, don't be dissuaded. You know, don't be dissuaded. Do be responsible, but don't be dissuaded. Fact check before you pass on stupid stuff on the social media. Though, that's all I ask.
You know what? I was gonna jump in on that, but
Melody.
I ain't gonna jump in on it. I'm gonna let that run on.
Let that roll.
Okay. Like I said, I want to thank people for watching the show.
Yeah.
I want you guys to really start interacting with us, so that we can bring this platform to our people. It's just not about us being here, but we're opening a door for you to say things and to have that type of situation to where we can start thinking about the different things that we bring to the table. I want to say this. I want to talk about my foundation quickly, Living and Driving While Black Foundation. We're a civil rights organization. We've been out here for well over 20 years. We address a lot of issues in the community. We're big on racial profiling and discrimination, police brutality, all these things that can happen in the Black community, that we're out here and we're willing to stand behind you, and we will fight tooth and nail to get justice for you.
Because sometimes you got to sue them.
You got the only way to change the dynamics in the oppressor's pocket is that's what you have to get that money. And when you take money from him, he will listen. That's without a doubt.
Yeah.
My last words is this. We see each and every day what's going on with us. And before I forget, I'll be doing a keynote speaking the 22nd. That's this coming up Friday. I want to send a shout out to Apostle McCoy and the organization, my brother Keeper. We've built an alliance together, and we're trying to make a huge difference by offering opportunities for our young brothers and sisters. That'll all be coming out. We're working with the state right now to uplift the Living and Driving While Black program, so we can actually provide some type of technical training, IT training, all of that stuff, so our young brothers and sisters have an opportunity, if you don't go to college, that you can get some type of career that can sustain yourself. So we'll be talking about that in the future. But I want to say this so we can get out of here. Each and every day that you get up, ask yourself,
Hey, Sam,
what can I do to make a difference? First of all, you can make a difference within yourself. If you start changing yourself in the way you think, if there's things you don't know that you can find to understand how to think, those are the things that you need to do to better yourself. Because when you better yourself, you will better all the things around you, because you would think differently on how to do things. So what I'm saying to my brothers and sisters, empower yourself with the knowledge on how to change yourself first. Then you will be able to think differently and change the circumstances around you, and God will use you as a vessel to help his people. God bless everybody. Happy Father's Day. I love my brothers out there. Be good fathers. Be responsible. Love your family. Love your children. Love God. And love your communities. God bless you. Peace. And you're listening to IntellectualRadio.com. I'm your host, David L. Lowry Jr. Let the truth be told. Let the truth be told. We'll see everybody next week. Have a good one.
Boy, preacher. Yeah. True. Come on. Hey, true. Hey, hey, true. Hey. I'm